Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 184th event of the Chennai International Center. So, this is a very important subject and a very different type of a book discussion. And this is exactly why CAC was actually conceptualized in 2016. We wanted to promote the intellectual capital and the intellectual strength of Tamil Nadu in whatever form or shape. And one aspect of Tamil Nadu is the industrial development, largely contributed by private entrepreneurship. It has a long and very sort of a successful history spanning several decades. R. Balaji, ex-businessline, just retired, has captured the essence of the champions of Tamil Nadu industry. He has touched upon 27 of those in his book. And I was jocularly mentioning to him that we'll have a Ponniyin Selvam part 2 very soon because there is much more ground to cover. But the book is a very interesting sort of a journey of several of these industrialists over a period of time, excellent success stories which captures the hard work, the dedication of these industrialists who have come up. It will be a very good reference point for youngsters, startups, and so on. And the the injection was given by none other than Mr. R.G.Chandramogan to Balaji to write this book. And he's also written the foreword. And Mr. R.G.Chandramogan, of course, needs no introduction to this gathering, one of the pillars of industrial development of Tamil Nadu. And not only that, the way he has brought rural India to the forefront in terms of their integrating with the mainframe is something remarkable. I don't want to get into too much of details in introducing all of them. Mr. Chandramogan, of course, is the founder of Hatsun Group. R. Balaji, a journalist by profession who's captured this book. Mr. Venkatraman is the general manager of MMA, and he also has a very distinguished career behind him. He's a very prolific writer, a reader, and I'm told he's also reviewing this book. So we could not think of a better person than Mr. Venkatraman to moderate this discussion. They have decided amongst themselves how to go about it. I'm not getting into that. So without much ado, I would now leave the floor to all the three of them to conduct these proceedings. Thank you.
Yeah, so good evening once again. Pleasure sharing the stage with doyens like Mr. Chandramohan and such a senior journalist here. And compliment the author for coming out with such a wonderful documentation of 27 interesting stories. So when he asked me, sir, would you like to join the panel? I was a little scared because it's not easy to be on the panel with doyens like this. So I said, if I'm the moderator, then I'll join. So இந்த இதில் திருவிளையாடலில் கேட்குற மாதிரி கேள்வியை நீ கேட்கிறாய் இல்லை நான் கேட்கட்டுமா நம்ம கேட்குறதா எனக்கு தெரியும்பான்ற மாதிரி. So I said, okay, I'll do the moderation. And as they mentioned, I had gone through this book. Very, very interesting. A lot of takeaways, plenty of information. I'm sure it must have been a monumental work to capture not just 1, 2, 3, but 27 success stories of Tamil Nadu. Of course, there are a few more to be captured. Maybe we're all looking forward to, as he said, volume 2. But to set the discussion into context, today Tamil Nadu is the second largest economy in terms of GSDP, 23.5 lakh crores. The number of factories are in excess of 38,000. I was told, until I read this book, I thought only we had 38,000 temples in Tamil Nadu. But these factories are no less than any temple. So we had about 38,000 factories here, contributing to 11% of the country's GDP. We are the third largest exporting state, contributing to once again 9 to 9.5% of the total Indian exports. And as you're all aware, our dream is to become a $1 trillion economy. Let's see how we do that. We'll discuss about it a little later in the discussion today. But it has not been like this forever. It's been a lot of sweat and blood which has brought us to this level. To draw two instances from the book, the book starts with the story of a TVS group. Like, any Rajinikanth movie would start with a mass song. And the Mari, Balaji has chosen to start this book with the TVS story. So sometime in 1911, when Mr. T.V.S. Sundaram Iyengar in Madurai wanted to do some business, what is the best business? So he went and approached that he will start a bus transport company. A Scottish company which was laying the railways during that time went and told the Britishers not to give permission because it will spoil their business. So he was denied permission. So what he did do next? What we are talking today, the last mile connectivity to the metro, that is something he envisaged those days. He went and told the Britishers that I will pick up people from the villages and towns and I will get them to your railhead. And straight away the permission was granted. That's how the story of TVS transport began. I'm telling you, it's 1911. Something even before that, 40, 50 years before that, there was one youngster who went to Burma. His name was Murugappan, the founder of Murugappa Group today. He was called a Podian because at 12 years of age he was sent to Burma along with a team which used to be going there to Burma, Singapore, Malaysia and all these places. They used to go for money lending. They come from a family of money lenders, the community of money lenders. So he was there and he was sent there. He was called a Podian because I didn't realize until I read this book that there is a hierarchy for becoming a money lender in a family. First he has to go as a Podian, that is apprenticeship. Then he has to graduate to the other stages like, Kutali, then Pangali, then Mudalali. So these are the graduating stages, certain number of years that they have to work. Very interesting story is documented. So we are talking about something like 1890 at that point of time. So gentlemen, today we talk about VUCA. You can tell me what these people would have thought when they started their business in 1890, 1911. Remember, not even the First World War was there that time. Then there was the First World War, then there was the Great Economic Depression, 1930, then there was a Second World War. The colonial rule, Dutch, French, everybody ruling as country. These people, what kind of a VUCA they would have undergone? Just think about it. So they all came up from that stage. And today we are at the stage which I told you in the beginning. And I can't forget this very, very interesting story of one youngster who was to appear PUC exam in 1970. He was about to appear for the exam and then decided he will not appear for the exam because the family was not doing very well. His father had migrated somewhere from close to Srivilliputtur to Chennai to set up a business. The business was not doing well, a provision store. So they decided to go back. But this youngster decided that he will not go back. He will have to fight it out. So he stayed back in Chennai. And then in a 250 square feet shop, you can call it a stack, somewhere in Rayapuram, he set up a small business. What business is that? Business of ice candy. That is the gentleman sitting next to me, left of me. And today we know where is Hatsun Agro. So now we will keep recounting the stories as it grows further. May I now invite Mr. Chandramogan to share his views about how this whole thing started, the journey of this book. And where there is a Karyakarta, there is also a Karanakarta. So if he was the Karyakarta for this book, the Karanakarta has been Mr. Chandramogan. To tell you more about it, I'll invite Mr. Chandramogan. Sir, it's all yours now.
Thank you, Mr. Venkatraman. Dear ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure for me to share the platform with Balaji to just brief about the incident. Actually, the spark came to me that the initiative of industrial development has been initiated earlier by Kamaraj and Venkatraman team. Repeatedly, Balaji, when he spoke to people, most of the people, they have mentioned about this duo initiating the process of guiding them, helping them to start an industry. This is the way that the industrial revolution started. Simultaneously, I used to have a lot of good interacting sessions with Mr. M.V. Subbaiah, the doyen from Murugappa Group. Mr. Venkatraman was mentioning about Podiyan, Kutali and then Mudaladi. This frame of communication came directly from Mr. M.V. Subbaiah to me. He was telling about the training system what they had in their family on those days. Mr. Subbiah is about 87, 88 now. And they had, Murugappa is his grandfather, and they have already established at Sri Lanka and Burma by the time Mr. M.V. Subbiah was about 12 years old. M.V. Subbiah was sent to Sri Lanka at the age of 12 to get trained during the holiday period. And there was a Mudalali who is their staff, and he is the person responsible for the Sri Lankan business. The day he went, the Mudalali, that is his staff, told him to go take bath and Swami kumtittu Vibhuti Pusittu Kilava. So he went there and he was given food and all that. And that Mudalali's wife is running a kitchen with a worker there, cook there. When he came down, he said, you joined it as a Pudian, not as a Mudalali or anything. He has to start from the hierarchy. And this Pudian was instructed by the Mudalali, Vetalabak going to Apo. In Sri Lanka, a 12 years old boy who doesn't know the language, the first day when he is landing, he is being told to get Vetalabak. So, both are from Pallattu, the same village. And M.V. Subbiah was about to ask him, நீங்க வெத்தலை பாக்கு போட மாட்டீங்களா? அவர் வெத்தலை பாக்கு போடுறதில்ல. அது இவனுக்கே தெரியும். அவர் வீட்டுக்கு வந்திருக்காரு போயிருக்காரு. நீங்க வெத்தலை பாக்கு போட மாட்டீங்களேன்னு ஏதோ சொல்றதுக்கு கையை தூக்கும்போது போய் கணக்கு பிளேட்டை ரூபா வாங்கிட்டு போ அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டார். இவர் வெளியே வந்தார். This boy came out and he didn't know the language and he couldn't spot a shop that is selling Vatalapak. After going for around some time, almost 45 minutes, he saw a Tamilian chewing Vathalai and coming. Then he asked him in Tamil where I can get that Vathalai, and he guided him to go there, and he finally got it and came back. Then that Mudalali said, "You are a useless boy. Will it take 1 hour and 15 minutes to bring Vathalabak here? And you should be ashamed to call yourself as the grandson of Murugappa." So, this is the first compliment he received according to him. This was a different, exciting journey. He himself was saying, this was the earlier training method for them before they get inducted into the system of the joint family working and all that. So this created an interest. Later, once when I looked at different business models, lot of questions arised. What is happening in Tamil Nadu? Say for example, Tamil Nadu, there are 3 major entrepreneurial belts. One belt is Coimbatore, Tirupur Coimbatore, within 50 kilometers. So those people have never migrated. They were successful there itself, and they have proved themselves there. Another major belt is Tirunelveli and 50 kilometers. All the people were comparatively educated, came to Chennai, and they were responsible for industrial revolution, and they made lot of industrial revolution from 50, 60 years back. Then came other comparatively uneducated people, but still they made a big brand names on consumer products and all that in Tamil Nadu, Chennai and all that. Another major belt is Shivakasi within 50 kilometers. There are a lot of entrepreneurs who were there as well as migrated here. And Tirunelveli, they completely migrated to Chennai, and these people migrated only 50% there and 50% here, and both the people were successful. How come that this is happening? A dry belt like Karaikudi has sent several thousand people there to Burma. Burma, before the World War took place and these people were thwarted, 2,500 Chettiars had 1,500 acres of land holding, which was 1/3 of Tamil Burma's rice field. The World War completely collapsed the economy of Burma. Being moneylenders, they were forced to grab the property. That created a social revolution that these people were evacuated. So all these were completely a different excitement to me. I thought that probably we should also know about other industries and how they started. I always felt Tamil Nadu has got certain unique futures compared to north or west. If you take the 1947, the top 10 richest people, only 2 are remaining in the slot and the other 8 has disintegrated. Comparatively in Tamil Nadu, either TVS Group or Murugappa Group has got a history of more than 100 years and going strong. And what is the basic strength of them which has helped them to continue? These are all questions which needed an answer. I thought probably some of the research work, if somebody can do it, it will be known to other people also. I asked Balaji whether he can do it. Balaji was too willing to do it. And Balaji, as a senior reporter from Business Line, I know for years. And whenever he is asking a question, when I answer, I said, this is not for print. You will keep that word and it will not be for print. So that type of clarity he had. What was fascinating for me was Tamil Nadu has been a $351 billion economy. And in spite of that, we are the number 2 next to Maharashtra. Maharashtra is doing great because of Bombay and other places. And as he said, their exports and other fronts we are leading. Still we don't have very, very large industries or not very, very aggressive people. Then how come that this has happened? This was my fascination to see how this has happened. Most of the people, when I go for a management session, some people they ask, can you give the success formula in a capsule? They want a magic bullet. They think that probably overnight they can become a millionaire. It takes years to become that. So these type of ambitions are there for a lot of people. And I wanted to really document how the ordeals they have gone through. Like this Pudian, even the owner starts as a Pudian and he gets insult from the Molali and it was accepted in the system. Today, a boy who is educated in abroad, he comes and he thinks that he is a boss, he knows the business, but the fundamentals are not known to him. This creates a lot of rift and complication. The system of them earlier was astonishing for me. Apart from the thrift, inspiration or innovation for products or services, marketing, finance, knowledge, strategy, crisis management, endurance, confidence, system, governance and single-minded focus, there was something primary, was unique in Tamil Nadu that I was just looking for. What is beyond it? I had a very unique experience like what I said about M.V. Subbaiah. For 35, 40 years back, I was in Chidambaram temple along with my family, with my kids. Chidambaram used to have a big tank inside. There used to be a lot of fishes. To entertain my children, I took a bag of rice flakes and we were putting it for fishes. My children were excited. But another boy, a Brahmin boy, he was selling lottery tickets. This was on a Saturday. Lottery tickets, hoping that probably people who come to the temple will buy the tickets as a fancy. And he was selling lottery tickets. This boy was also aged 12 and he was excited. And without selling the lottery tickets, he was just sitting and watching the fish being fed. And once when the flakes were over, my children were still not interested in leaving. Then I said, I will go and buy some more and come back. You sit here and I will come back. Then the boy had a board where the raffle tickets were pinned with a rubber. He said, sir, I will go and get it. Let me keep this board here. I will go and come back home. And he took the money, ran, and he came back. Being a small boy, probably he ran fast, and the place is also quite far. The temple is big. We came back. And then probably we had more entertainment there. And then when I was about to leave, I felt the boy has done a job of bringing me the flakes all the way. I gave him 5 rupees. The boy refused to take it. He said, my mom has told me not to take anything free. I will not take anything free. He said, if you want to help me, buy a lottery ticket. Unfortunately, this is contradictory to my policy. I don't buy a lottery ticket for a fortune. I haven't bought one. So, both our policies were clashing. Somebody has to compromise. The boy is absolutely no compromising model. Then I compromised. My thinking was I should not buy a lottery ticket and get a fortune out of the lottery ticket. But buying is not a problem. Then I paid 25 rupees, I bought some lottery ticket. The boy went off. Then the next temple we went to Tanjore. I put it in the hoodie. Maybe Pragadishwarar got a fortune or not, I don't know. This is one incident. The second incident came when Mr. Gopal Srinivasan was speaking to me. He was talking about his grandfather, Sundaram Iyengar. The initial days, he started as a timber merchant in Madurai, and that automobile business and other things documented were coming later. He was a spare parts dealer in Madurai. During the World War II, all the Madurai people, the Madurai traders, they were focusing on making a fortune because they were making hay when the sun shined. All the spare parts, which is supposed to be sold at 100, was sold at 400, 500, they made a fortune out of it. Sundaram Iyengar persisted that he will sell at only the recommended prices with the regular commission. We decided not to sell at a premium. But he also wanted to ensure that the actual owner got it, not just a trader who will manipulate it. And he wanted to know for what purpose you are buying. And he assured that probably the automobile guy is buying and he was billing it. Now, after the World War, when the crisis was over, the people who made the fortune at that particular period, they made the benefit of those time and disappeared. And as soon as the World War was over, all the companies came back to Sundaram Iyengar asking him to represent them in Madurai. And Sundaram Iyengar became almost a monopoly dealer for all the big brands. So what he did was, he chased goodwill when people were chasing short-term profits. He was just going for a long-term, sustainable business model. And for him, the goodwill is more important than a short-term profit. So this was told by Mr. Gopal Srinivasan as a general incident he told me. I was comparing the Chidambaram boy and probably the attitude of Sundaram Iyengar. Similarly, in another meeting session, Sri M.V. Subbayya was with me, and he was asked a question from the audience. 1,500 people were there in Madurai. This is a yes meeting of Madurai. And one of the person asked him, sir, being in a business family, when we should teach our children about the value system? M.V. Subbayya retorted straight away saying, from the time of birth you have to teach it. So, in my opinion, comparatively these people from Tamil Nadu has been maybe less aggressive but more persistent, more long-term, looking at goodwill. And this is one of the reasons the two of the largest groups have crossed 100 years and going strong. And most of the groups that have started aggressive in north or west, they have seen a short-term growth, but at the same time decline also has been faster. Always, the management consultant always used to say, the one that goes like a rocket comes down like a rocket. It should just go like a plane, gaining momentum and fly. So, literally, Tamil Nadu has done an excellent job. Lot of people didn't know So we thought that probably we should just bring forth the document. And though I initiated, the real legwork is done by Balaji. This was done at the time of COVID, and a lot of people he couldn't meet. And most of the calls have been in Zoom, and some of the people were reluctant. And still some of the people were very enthusiastic. I think regarding these particular incidents about meeting people and all that, Balaji will be a better person to communicate, better than me. And I was only getting him the contact and all that, and rest of the work was done by him all along, all around. And this has been a 2.5 years exercise. Because of COVID, there has been a delay. Some few people, they couldn't participate, though they were interested. The churn took place. And finally, we decided to just launch the book. As he said, maybe, probably Balaji can just go for the second round with the remaining people. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. So, ladies and gentlemen, I told you about how Mr. Chandramogan had started in a small 250 square feet shack. And you all should also know that today, the company procures 35 lakh liters of milk, 40 lakh liters of milk from about 5 lakh farmers. He has about 11,500 workforce, 20 processing plants, and 3,500 outlets. His vehicles delivering these covers almost 7,20,000 kilometers, which is like 18 times going around the world. So a phenomenal success, and all by himself. This is one story, and the story of TVS Iyengar, the 4th generation has taken up now, and Murugappa Group, 5th generation has taken up, and they are going strong. So there are so many stories like this in Tamil Nadu. Before I hand over to Balaji, one interesting story is of Ramaraj. He named his company after his father's name and his name half. He's actually Nagarajan. At the age of 9, this entrepreneurial bug bit him. There was, of course, like so many other stories, there was poverty, they were not doing well, but still they wanted to do business. This boy had to pay 15 rupees a year as school fee, which he could not afford. What he did, he wrote to the editor of this magazine, which was giving these school books, and Balamitra. He said, I don't have money, but I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Imagine he's in class 9. And if you give me an agency, I will sell at least 100 to 200 books every month and I'll give it to you. That editor was so surprised at this request, and he said, okay, I'll give you 100 books every month and keep 2 rupees with you. So this boy used to make 20 rupees from that. And that's how his journey of entrepreneurship started. Today we all know where is Ramaraj, and there are more stories to tell. We'll continue with that. May now request author of the book, Balaji, like Mr. Chandramogan said, phenomenal work, 2 years working on a project and coming out with about 400-page book, working on 37 stories but not 37 individuals. These 37 stories, each has got about 4 or 5 at least individuals there. So phenomenal work is done. May I request Balaji to say how did this entire journey happen, and what is it all about?
Thank you very much. Thank you all for primarily after the initial elation of being given this project wore off, like now, it was just simple fright that took over. Yes, I'd been a journalist, I had done interviews, I had written articles, but writing a book was an entirely different matter. And but I actually did not have worried, because every participant in the book was so enthusiastic. They shared such interesting information. There was a wealth of knowledge that has gone into this book, their knowledge. So I need not have actually worried. The book literally wrote itself. Apart from being enthusiastic, these participants also, gave suggestions, gave me contacts, whom else I should meet. So that's how this book, I was able to compile over 27 stories of really significant private sector players in the state. Of course, most of the introduction has already been done by the previous speakers. So I'll go directly to the book. Now, it is the private sector such as these companies that have contributed to Tamil Nadu, putting Tamil Nadu on the industrial map of the country and also the globe. Starting with the first two players, Murugappa Group and TVS, there is one very interesting backdrop to the time this interviews were happening. Murugappa Group, for instance, on the day I met Mr. Subaya, I had asked him as a part of this questions, how the company, how the family, extended family manages to stay together and run the various companies in the group. Mr. Subaya just smiled and said, later today evening you will know about this, and there will be more developments in the coming days. It was on that day Murugappa Group announced its restructure, and that Mr. Murugappan will be stepping down. Mr. Subaya also, these of course we learned about all this later. Mr. Subayan made one significant remark at that time. He said, for any business or wealth to last longer than 3 generations, you have to allow space for youngsters, allow them to implement their ideas and thoughts, or they will go their own way and things will fall apart. So that is what the Murugappa Group was doing. In his own case, he was candid enough to admit in his own case, he stepped down as chairman much earlier than needed. Again, because he realized that his family, that's what his family wanted him to do. Times were changing, the group was evolving, a different management style was needed. So he stepped down earlier than needed. He said, something like this is the key to endurance of companies for lasting long. Similarly, when I had requested TVS Group members for interviews, at that time the group had also announced a restructure. Essentially, the 4 arms of the family would be more independent. Youngsters would be given an opportunity to, a lot more freedom to run the businesses. Mr. Venu Srinivasan's interview was the first for this book. He gave us an outline on what was happening, but of course the details would be finalized later, he had mentioned. So it's along these lines. In Tamil Nadu, okay, Murugappa Group and TVS Group are the largest, and a lot has been written and said. But the book includes a host of companies such as the Java Group, VVS Edible Oil and Sons, and quite a few others. These are all in the 3rd and 4th generation. They have managed to stay together and build a brand. Farida Group, for instance, one of the largest exporters of footwear. They manufacture products in other brand names. They may not be commonly known. Mr. Rafiq Ahmed of Farida Group, in fact, said that he has arranged for the transition in his family. His 4 sons would be able to run the companies independently. They will not be stepping on each other's toes within their enterprises or outside in the market. So that's a kind of forethought that's gone into, in these transitions. And here I'd also like to point out, regarding Tamil Nadu-based companies, there is a very common perception that they maintain a low profile, that they are not too aggressive. I think without specifically spelling it out, this book bursts that myth. It is not so. There is an element of being grounded, pragmatic, and that is also a reason for their endurance. So apart from these family-based companies, there is also this perception that being in a family business, it's probably easy for someone to enter the business and run the business. Not so. Whether it's a family business or a first-time entrepreneur, each has their very specific challenges. In a family-run business, a new entrant has to prove himself. He has to find space within the organization and bring in ideas that to take the company forward. Whereas a first-time entrepreneur, he has a different set of challenges. Like Mr. Chandramogan's examples has already been stated. What does it take for someone to launch a ice candy business from a single room workshop and then build it into a $1 billion business? Mr. Chandramogan shares such insights into, his experience in the book. Similarly, there are any number of, among the 27 companies, there are any number of first-time entrepreneurs who started with virtually nothing but a vision and a dream. and have managed to build huge business empires. For instance, and there are also certain other aspects in the book which I'd like to highlight. There is a huge amount of expertise built up in acquisitions. Murugappa Group, again, of course. Apart from that, Java Group, others have built up expertise in acquiring sick companies and turning them around. That's a huge repository of knowledge. Companies share that kind of information. Apart from that, there are also companies like TVS Logistics and VA Tech Webback. In acquisitions they face a different type of challenge. These are companies based on skills, human resource, not just plant and machinery. VA Tech Webback, which acquired a European parent and the Indian business of this European company, had the job of assuring the European staff that even under an Indian company, they would have their space and they would be able to implement their skills. TVS Logistics has acquired companies in the US, Europe, and Southeast Asia. It had, Mr. Dinesh points out that he had the job of bringing all these people under to act as a cohesive team. So all these, these are radically different companies. Similarly, for instance, SPB Eswin Group. It is one of the earliest companies that brought in the use of a non-conventional raw material like sugarcane fiber for manufacturing paper. This was a company that, almost right from the start, that has been run by professionals. And the level of expertise available here, it has a consultancy division in which much larger companies are clients. So that's a unique feature there. Similarly, in the case of, I'm sorry, among the first generation entrepreneurs itself, there are quite a few, like Pothis, for instance, he had referred to, from the southern districts. He had the job of, even as a retail company, he needed to enter a sector dominated by very large established players. Mr. Ramesh of Pothis shares such information. So with this, I'd like to stop now, and if you have any questions, I can clarify.
Thank you, Mr. Balaji. I think you've done phenomenal work and been very humble in just taking a few minutes to lay the outline to the viewers. I think you possibly didn't want to let everything out so that they can buy the book and read it for themselves. Yeah. So moving on, I have a few questions for both these gentlemen who achieved so much in life. But just to tell you, from what they have told you, I've heard all these terms: acquisition, mergers, forward integration, backward integration. All this that we talk of today in management parlance has all been tried out, decades ago. When you read this book, you will understand. Maybe they have not used the same terminology, but they have done all this to be successful. So there are many more, like he mentioned, Seshasai paper boards. Such a wonderful system, many of them. The Suguna Foods is mentioned in this book. Then SMK Group is mentioned in this book. Achi Masala is mentioned in this book. Hatsun Agro itself. They have kind of adopted an entire community. It's not just they're doing a business for their own business. They do everything. I mean, the persons who are actually helping them out, they help them out so much. So it's like, you help me to help you better. That kind of a thing. So an entire community gets benefited. An entire ecosystem gets uplifted economically. So there are so many such stories in this book. So let me just, I know, audience, you keep your questions ready for these doyens. Meanwhile, let me just ask them a few questions. First question is my favorite one to Mr. Chandramogan. Sir, many of us in this room who are not businessmen, we believe that for some people, there's an entrepreneurial bug that bites them and they suddenly become entrepreneurs. There are many such stories in this book also. There is one such bug that bit you also once in a while. Just want to know, what is it that this beast that only bites a few people, or what is it that special competency that these people have, that they become successful entrepreneurs, while rest of them don't even want to take this risk?
Maybe they are backbenchers and they don't form into any rules and systems in the school days. So they are rebels, practically. So when you are a rebel and you are not a systematically brought up person, and you start taking chances, you get into problem and you get into problem solving also. That gives the entrepreneurship. This is born entrepreneurs. The rest of them, they just come into the entrepreneurship after working for some time and all that. This is a different set.
Great, sir. I wish I was a bank venture as well. So, one question to you, Balaji. Yeah. So, see, we've seen in many stories these repeated lines. Nobody has a money problem, but only an idea problem. CKR has said this in his interview. Whether you sell shampoo or milkshakes, the business is all about grabbing buyers' attention, right? And foundation of success is not being afraid of failure, but fail fast, fail cheap, and in early stages of learning. So these are certain things that I think I've repeated in many stories that you brought out. So can you tell me, apart from the Kevin Care, any other such instances when you interviewed them who actually aligned with these kind of storylines?
Again, starting with the largest of the conglomerates, Mr. Velayan himself says, particularly in the context of this DBS Murugappa Group joint venture, he said when they realize that something is going wrong, they take action very fast. They cut their losses and exit the businesses. That is what happened in the case of financial sector. That's ironic considering that the family has its roots in financial services. Similarly, he also points to examples such as exiting cement business, Paribare. He said when there is no scope for building up scale, the kind of volumes that they target, they exit the business. Similarly, Mr. Chandramogan himself, he also says in the book, for almost every successful brand, there are 2 or 3 that have failed. And that he has exited fast. The latest being the Oyalo brand, which was a victim of COVID pandemic. Yeah. There are other, Mr. Ranganathan of Kevin Care also says, in his organization, they do not penalize someone who has tried and failed. They are actually encouraged. So these are some instances that come to mind.
Right, thank you. So a few more things that come out from these story of these entrepreneurs is that they're all very frugal in their approach when they are approaching their business. There is no extravagance at all. And every one of them is hardworking 24/7 and quality. There is one reference made by Mr. Srivatsram of Wheels India about their group. He says when they started the TVS transport service, people used to set their watches based on the arrival time of the bus. That used to be the perfection. We talk of Six Sigma today. And, there was because I told you that they were picking up people from villages and towns, the roads were not very even. And the tires would get punctured very often, these buses. So solve this problem, they didn't know what to do. I mean, the roads were as bad as they were at that time. So what he came out with is, he said, before every bus or maybe a couple of buses, there will be a pilot vehicle which will go with a magnet tied to it in the bottom. So any of these nails or all these horseshoes get picked up by that and the bus go freely. These are the kind of things, we follow this today in the airports, what we call it the mechanical runway sweeper. It does the same thing today. So these people thought about innovation, like the sachet revolution, which all of us are aware by C.K. Ranganathan, sir. So the next question again, Mr. Chandramohan. One interesting question, sir. Many entrepreneurs, all entrepreneurs do hard work in bringing their company to a certain level and over a period of time discover the need to hand over the business to some so-called professionals. So at what stage do business enterprises take this call of transforming a family business into a professionally run unit? Is it required at all? Because these people have seen everything. So why hand over to someone who's not gone through the business or grown through the business?
See, entrepreneur starts in a small way, but over a period the organization becomes bigger and he requires not people who will do the work as per his instruction when he was a small guy, or later a subordinate who can just execute a job directed by him. You require colleagues who can work with you and probably perform, who are specialized in their own area of finance or marketing or whatever it is. As an organization, if you ask me, probably we have a competent people and we encourage them. And we don't have any IIM guys and other people from any different organizations. We have got lifers with us and they are committed. We send them for training to different IIMs and other places for training. My belief is a committed person can be converted as a professional. A professional, if he is not committed, he cannot be made to learn commitment. So that is the way we run it. And as a matter of fact, if you are willing to continuously learn, you can lead the organization. If you are having a block of mind, the entrepreneur can be the asset at the beginning and he can become a liability at a later date. It depends on the entrepreneur.
Thank you, sir. So nicely answered. And to you, Balaji, there's one thing in this book about Seshasai paper. You'll be surprised to know that the founder of this company, Mr. Seshasai, was actually owning two aeroplanes. They were called tiger moths actually. I don't know if you've seen them, yellow colored twin-seater aeroplanes of 1930s. So he was owning two of them, and there was Mahatma Gandhi who was visiting their place at one point of time. So he went up to shower flowers over Mahatma Gandhi. Unfortunately, immediately after that he crashed and he died. So it was his son and his nephew and his partner who took over and ran the business after that. So very interestingly, you will find in this book that it is a zero debt company today, listed on BSE with over 1,300 crores of turnover. But Tamil Nadu government had invested 1 crore in 1960s into a private company like Seshasai Paper Boats, a very, very rare occurrence. How did this happen? And if you could just tell the audience what is this all about?
Mr. Gopal Ratnam, the chairman of the company, narrated that incident. It was much like the references to Mr. R.Venkatraman and the legendary Mr. Kamraj, the former chief minister. It was Mr. R.Venkatraman who had invited Mr. S. Viswanathan. Both of them were practicing as lawyers and they were partners in a firm. Mr. S. Viswanathan is a labor lawyer, freedom fighter who had turned a businessman. Now, when Mr. Venkatraman invited him to start an industry, he was not your typical industrialist and he was not cash rich. So he said if the government can support him, he'd be able to raise the funds for starting the unit. That is how one third of the equity was shared by
invested by the government.
Yes,
and they still stay invested till today.
Yes, yes.
That's a very rare thing. Very nice. Thank you for that. Yeah. And audience, I'm sure you're all getting ready with your set of questions. So moving forward, one question to Mr. Chandramogan. Sir, in this book, we've seen companies that are not averse to raising debts for expansion and diversification, and while a few of them are also open to private equity, some of them have decided that they'll go only domestic, and some of them have said even foreign is okay. So interestingly, some companies prefer keeping their balance sheet absolutely debt-free, while some are even weary of private equity in any form. And one such example is Mr. Sridhar Vembu of Zoho, who is also covered in this book. He said, no private equity whatsoever. So while some go public, others prefer to remain as a private entity. So what are the reasons that could possibly drive entrepreneurs to take calls like this, and what could be the advantages or disadvantages in either raising private equity or debt? And why do some of them don't want to do that, though that will be the that can be the easiest way to move up?
See, it depends. The different entrepreneurs have got a different fingerprints, so they have their own choices. Somebody wants to have an aggressive growth, he may take a PE and he may work with them and he may be a tandem with them. Zoho, he has got a different way of doing things. If you ask us, we don't have any PE invested in the company from the beginning. There are people who are buying our shares and holding it, but they are not the people who invested early. I am also not that comfortable with the PE being in our board and all that for two reasons. They are having a term of 4 years, 5 years, and their business is multiplying the money. My business is multiplying the business. I don't mind taking a long-term shot where they wanted to have a middle term or a short-term bust. They want us to give a statement that we will reach the moon in 3 years, and which we don't give. And after 3 years, within 3 years they may vacate, and you may be saddened with the statement what you have given. And if I start saying that 3 years I will land at moon, 5 years I will land at Mars, 5 years later you people will come and ask me, what happened to your Mars trip? So I have to answer. By the time the friend who has suggested, you would have vacated my company. So we are not into any short-term pressures. These type of short-term pressures are not good for a company. So we try to refine away from it.
In
Thank
this
you,
context, with your permission, sir, I'd like to add one extreme example in this list of companies, Johnson Lifts.
Yeah.
You know,
Correct.
it's in its 60th year now, and Mr. John says the last bank borrowing was in the mid 1980s. They have grown entirely through internal accruals,
Absolutely.
and they are a company that are that is in competition with the international players.
Absolutely.
Right from the day they started building lifts, and they are the only escalator manufacturer in India, and they are in competition with Chinese companies.
Absolutely. That was also a very interesting story, what he brought out, Johnson. Actually, he was actually competing with multinational brands, and when this apartment culture caught up in Chennai, the multinational brands found it very difficult to customize for these 3 floors, 4 floors and all that, whereas he was the only guy who could do it. He said, for me that was an opportunity, for them that was a challenge. So that's how he grew his business. So, Balaji, one straight question for you. I think this will be a bouncer. As a reader, I found there are so many stories, so many gentlemen successful. You have not covered not even one woman entrepreneur in this book.
That was purely incidental.
Okay.
Like I said,
So bouncer has been hit for a 6. Yeah.
It was not for want of trying. Like Mr. Chandramogan mentioned,
Yeah.
quite a few companies were not keen on participating. Some had agreed to participate, but somehow could not find the time. So that were a couple of companies with women leaders. They were chairpersons, but those meetings just didn't happen. It was incidental. That's all.
No, I understand. Because some. Yeah. So I'm sure volume 2 will be the other way. There will be a lot of women in the book and maybe few gentlemen. And I'm sure volume 2 will come up because many of them have been left over. And sir, one question for you, sir. Tamil Nadu has set itself a target of $1 trillion economy by 2030. Just wanted to know your views on that. Is it achievable? And what could be a blueprint for that?
Right now the economy size is about 351 billion as of October 23. I think 1 trillion is a very, very tall order. And even if we continue to grow at 8%, we are likely to reach 555 and not beyond. And among the top 10 countries of the world, Russia, Italy and Canada are hovering between 2 to 2.1, 2.2 billion. And for a state to get into 1 trillion, we require 20% growth on a CAGR basis for the next 6 years. It's really a very tall order. Or I can say, little impractical.
Right. Audience, are you all ready with your questions? Anyone? Yeah, there's one hand which has gone up. Yeah, Ramesh has already got a mic. He's always ahead of time. Yeah, Ramesh, please go ahead.
Well, namaskaram, sir. This question is to the author himself. Apart from the 27 the big ones that you have brought out, who are fairly successful, I'm of the opinion that there are a couple of instances in which some of the big daddies of the industries have bitten dust and they have now almost nowhere. For example, Spic, for that matter, which was a roaring success story for Indian industry and was really the number one champion of the Tamil Nadu industry and was a cynosure to the eyes of everyone, with the Titco contributing about 40% of the equity and stuff like that on the early days itself. Have you tried to list out such of those corporates which have bounced to nowhere as of now, in your experience?
No, that wasn't exactly in the purview of this, the theme that we had selected for this book.
Oh, they were the champions, huh?
They were, yes.
Okay, anyway, it's your book.
Where? Maybe one more book will come for that.
Sir, myself Murli Krishnan from Chennai. Sir, actually, we know the difference between that, traders and entrepreneurship. And then in India, very populistic slogan like, Gujaratis are very great business people, and then, they can do business kind of, very smarter way like that. And then, what is that difference between that, Gujarati businessman, people via Tamil Nadu, business, people actually. And then in Tamil Nadu, I think, business people do more entrepreneurship, like, but in Gujarati, I don't know, but they are traders or entrepreneurship. And then what kind of mindset we have to develop, sir, to become like that? And then
comparatively, if you take the Tamil Nadu entrepreneur and the Gujarati entrepreneur, both are good people, but probably comparatively they are far away street smart people compared to Tamil Nadu guys, whatever said and done. There used to be a story. One Gujarati in New York went to the bank and pledged his car, saying, probably I want some money, this is my new Benz car, give me $800. The bank manager was just astonished, probably pledging a car like this and asking for $800. He gave the money. In the lunchtime, he was just joking with his colleagues. This idiot Gujarati has pledged his new Benz for only $800. And he will come back and pay the money and let the car be parked as a security in our parking area. They parked it. This Gujarati came to India, spent a month and went back. And he told his Gujarati friend, I have taken a $800 loan and those guys are taking security of my vehicle and they will take care of it very well. And even if I am going to put it in a car parking area, it will cost me more. So he comes and pays $800 and takes the vehicle and goes. The smarter person is not the banker, the Gujarati. So they are comparatively very shrewd in seeing things. I have a Gujarati investor in US and probably I have an idea of probably how they are operating. Methodically, we have to learn a lot from them. We have to accept.
Good evening, sir. It's very good to hear so many stories, success stories, and I'm sure there are a lot of failures, as you mentioned, some of the brands which you closed down. My question is more, with so many multinationals coming into India, and not so much about investment or PE investment, but from a talent perspective, running a 6,000 crore company, how do you ensure you get the right talent in today's world? And people is very critical, as you rightly mentioned. You pick the right people, get them trained, invest into them. How do you compete? And more of the junior people who go to all these colleges, how do you attract the right talent so that you invested into them right from the beginning?
A small correction, we are likely to be $1 billion company this year, not 6,000.
Thank you.
And second thing, about the question of getting that talent. I always believe that the talent can be from an ordinary university who can be trained to promote himself as an excellent professional. And we have been quite successful on that. And we have got lifers working with us. They don't just hop for a minor salary increase and all that. I always say the leading institutions, the people are also trained to take care of their interest first and the organization interest next. Our guys, they take the organization interest first and their interest next. This is one thing. And our guys are used to delivering the results. And at the time of allotting the job, if we fail, how to give the reasons they don't think. They start chasing the results. They may fully succeed or not. They are not trained to give reasons of failure, which most of the competent universities, the students are well trained for. My people may not be able to give an excellent presentation, but performance-wise, they are no way less than anybody in the field, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Sir, I'm Ganesh. Actually, the first question to you, then later I'll go to him. Since you have come up with a very basic level to a very highest level, and you have some moral values in your business, I want to know what are the challenges you faced with to keep your ethics in business. That is in one. Second is like since your milk and other products are more of a lesser shelf life, how do you manage the wastages which can happen during that one?
One, I was just telling you about the value system. Gopal was not there, and I was just talking about the story Gopal said about your grandfather. In the World War time, selling it at the right price, generating goodwill, not the money. People who made short-term money, they operated. As you are talking about it, we collect milk from farmers. There was a time when it was critical. We didn't have the capacity in the flesh. 2 times we faced a problem. We have assured the farmers we will take the milk at any cost. Now we had a problem. If we are collecting the milk cannot be produced or anything. So both the times, in 2008 and 2010, we told them that we will not pick up the milk on the evening. But the previous evening, whatever the milk they have given, the same payment will be made for the milk that is not collected. To honor that, we will honor the payment without collecting the milk, because we couldn't do anything with the milk. Twice we did it. Both the times put together, the cost was 1 crore and 61 lakhs. That created a great morale for the farmer, that these guys are reliable. Last 23 years, we make the payment on the 10th day, means we make the payment, and we don't give any excuses. So these are all things ethically building a reliability and a goodwill that takes care of the business by itself. We don't look at shortcuts. Second question you asked?
Yeah. One was that your milk wastages, how do you, milk products and things, shelf life will be very less.
See, we are focused on only 2 products category, refrigerated or frozen. Frozen comes under ice cream, and refrigerated comes with milk, curd and all that. We have reliably put infrastructure right from the procurement to distribution. Our distribution is happening through our own 3,500 outlets, he said, at the time of writing the book. Today we have 4,000 outlets. These 4,000 people directly order with us, and we supply from 20 different factories to them. Number one. And we have put the infrastructure ourselves. The infrastructure is not owned by him. The shop is rented by us. Shop electricity is paid by us. The machineries are ours. And he is a franchisee who has given a deposit and operates. And on a receivable front, we don't give credit. Today he pays the money, tomorrow he gets the delivery. We don't give any credit. But for that we do a lot of advertisement and see to that the product moves faster. So we have established the infrastructure of a quality mission to see to that the product is preserved. Right from the time of production to the consumption, the product has to be preserved. This is where we have put the system that helps us today to maintain the market and control things.
Thank you. Sir, Mr. Balaji, one more question for him. Actually, when you are going to collect the stories from various entrepreneurs, how did you get the confidence built up with them? because all may not take it, why you are getting the stories of there. Some may be a bit skeptical, why they may not able to tell exactly the whole story. Did you find whether all people are open to talk to you everything because you are writing a book?
Everyone who has participated in this book was quite enthusiastic, and they shared a lot. I mean, as you can see in the book itself, this was not an issue at all. Everyone was keen that these stories are needed to be told.
Yeah, I'm Saraswati, Secretary General, Madras Chamber of Commerce, and we have that book which was released during our 175th year, Championing Enterprises, which covered some of the journey. My question to Mr. Balaji and then one to Mr. Chandramogan. Mr. Balaji, I have not read the book. I assure I'll buy the book. But just want to know, have you covered sector-wise, or because the challenges could be different, the growth story? So have you taken some sort of like IT industry?
No,
no.
There isn't a structure like that.
Okay, but IT...
These are, yes, except for Zoho.
Okay.
These are individual companies.
And mostly manufacturing?
Yes,
okay.
And retailing, as in the case of Pothys.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. But you know, there are some interesting parallels that I can point to, if it's okay. For instance, two unrelated companies like Zoho and Farida Group. Farida Group is a footwear exporter. Zoho, of course, in IT. Now, it's more commonly known about Zoho's decentralized approach to setting up offices in small towns, setting up offices where there is talent available instead of bringing them to cities.
Correct.
Now, a very similar approach is Mr. Rafiq Ahmed of Farida Group practices. You know, now in a centralized factory, he says his buses need to travel about 150 kilometers a day to bring in the workers. What he is doing now is setting up decentralized production facilities, leasing or buying out Kalyana Mandapams and large halls in areas where workers are available. And then he moves the components to these centralized factories. I thought that's an interesting...
Have you touched Cognizant or somebody like that? No. Okay. Just wanted to understand. And to you, sir, kudos to you. Just I want to know, how do you find the difference between these startups? Because these were also startups of yesteryears mostly. What is the difference you find between the startups of today and the startups of yesteryears? Because there are some advantage like technology, but there are complex compliances, and there are more competition, and even front benchers are starting here. Like as you said, risk averse if they are more educated sometimes in the early thing. What is the major difference you find? And in case if you have to start something afresh now, would you be willing to do that?
I am not complaining about the front benchers anyway, so that is not my intention. If you look at the past and this, today knowledge is available freely and you can source it faster. There, on those days, the knowledge is very difficult. Communication was very difficult. Lot of people have to do from scratch, and the funds were not that easy to come forth. There was no venture capital, there was no angel investor, anything. So those days, constructing the foundation was taking a longer time. But the people also built industries or business for life. Today, the concept is probably I get money from PE. At the time of entry itself, I also decide the exit date and work on it. So that is not our model. It's two different models.
My name is Choranachiyar, President of the Tamil Chamber of Commerce. For you, I am old student of KCS, Nadar High School. Your first origin in 70s period. Regarding my question is, you are saying that in some other meeting with FM, I think I was there last year or 2 years back. The government is giving the cooperative societies some exemption or some other rules and regulations and all, which is not better for your, especially for your dairy industries or private, and it should be a level playing field like that you are quoted at that time, I think. What is that actually? You want to have, say, a similar rule for both the cooperative societies and private, sir?
You are from KCS school.
Yes, sir.
In fact, you are fortunate. I couldn't get the admission on those days, so I went to Mutyalpattai school. Anyway. The thing is, cooperative federations are run by different state governments. Different state governments to woo the voters, they try to give some promises that they will give money for the consumer, money from the farmer and all that. This is giving a distorted things, and this is not an equal race. For example, Karnataka, they give 6 rupees to the farmer. And once when you start giving it, if you are importing something from abroad, and you can contest it as dumping. If China is subsidizing something, you can contest it as subsidizing. Here states are subsidizing the other state with subsidies. They will affect the Maharashtra farmer also. They will affect private industry also. That is the point I am saying, that if you want to give incentives, give it to the farmer for the animals, not for the price of milk. This is a distortion we have been addressing.
So this question partially you already answered. So today we talk a lot about unicorn companies, and we have more than 100 unicorn companies in the last 5 years. 5 years people are able to make $1 billion. So my question is it a sustainable model? So even though the investor has planned say exit date, so is it a sustainable model in the long run?
I am not an expert to comment on the unicorn model, and there are models which have succeeded, there are some models which have failed. And as far as I am concerned, probably I am a person who built it from scratch, and this unicorn model is not a familiar one for me to answer. So there are successes and failures.
I actually have 2 questions. The first one is, you've emphasized on short-term pressure on entrepreneurs a lot. Would you say that's the only Achilles heel of companies, or are there more? You seem to have an aversion to credit as well. Why is that?
Can you get it clarified a little better? You want to say short-term pressures?
Yeah, I mean to ask whether short-term pressure is like the only shortcoming that an entrepreneur should watch out for.
Not necessarily, but this is one of it you have to just take care of. It is not that this is the only thing that we have to look at.
My second question is, what is the future for women leaders in the TN industry, and how does it look right now?
It's bright for either sex. It's a brighter thing for them. In case if they are going to get into any business or something, the commitment should be there. And if there is a commitment and knowledge and inputs, anybody can succeed.
Thank you.
Good evening, sir. I have 2 questions. This is for you, sir. So with sustainability taking a center stage, I would like to know, Hatsun being a dairy industry, how would you closely work with that aspect, sustainability?
Sustainability.
Yeah. I mean sustainable practices.
Sustainable practice.
Yes.
Basically, we try to understand the industry, and the latest innovations of the industry are implemented as early as possible. We try to go around the world to look at technological changes and all that we implement. We also keep on training our people. We have a program called People First, and we give a lot of importance for training the people. And most of our people are sent abroad for knowing the latest things. And our team is comparatively with us for quite some time, and they understand and implement. Sustainability is not a major issue for us.
And my one more question is, as consumer preference is moving towards plant-based dairy products, and Hatsun being a dairy, majorly a dairy industry, how do you foresee consumer preference and how do you aim?
See, plant-based dairy products is not the right word. Plant-based products. So dairy is, milk is called dairy. If Mr. Sodhi is addressing the meeting, he will be very harsh in communication. And you don't want almond milk or anything to be mentioned. Dairy is meant for dairy, and these are all replacements. People are promoting it, and probably it's in an infant stage as far as in India is concerned. We don't want to deviate from dairy. We are a dairy company. Later, if it is going to come, being an agricultural activity, we may take it up as a separate entity, not blending as milk and all that.
Any more questions? Okay, that will be the last one.
Sir, my question to Mr. Balaji, sir, after pandemic, the way of doing business has become changed, and the family business people or second generation, third generations doing business, are they able to cope up or adapt to the new normal, sir?
I'm really not qualified to answer that question.
Right. So, some closing remarks from both of you regarding this? Maybe Mr. Balaji first and then Mr. Chandramogan.
First, I'd like to thank the Chennai International Center for organizing this event and to promote champions of Tamil Nadu industry. And also, I'd like to thank Mr. Ramakrishnan of Spark Capital, who, when I told him about this book, immediately said that this is something that is worth highlighting and brought it to the attention of the Chennai International Center. Of course, I'm thankful to Mr. Chandramogan for reposing faith in me to write this book. And also all the participants in the book who were particularly encouraging and supportive. I'd like to mention a couple of them. Mr. Gopal Srinivasan, who encouraged me right from the start. Right from the start when the project started. Mr. Ranganathan of Kevin Care. I'd like to make one point here. Mr. Dinesh of TVS Logistics. He raised only one concern. He said for this book to be effective, you need to make every story comprehensive, ensure that the entire narrative is present. I was able to assure him that space will not be a constraint. That was only because Mr. Chandramogan very early during the planning said that we will not set a number on the page number or the word count. Every information, every relevant information that they share will go into the book. So essentially it is this. I hope everyone enjoys this book as much as I have done writing it.
Thank you so much. Let's give him a big hand. Fantastic work there. There's some closing remarks from you.
My interest for writing this book initiated from, as I said earlier, Mr. M.V. Subbaya's interaction and Gopal Srinivasan's interaction about the pioneers and how they modeled their firm, which has become an icon today. So, in fact, probably later we were able to see range of varieties, range of people covered by the book by Balaji gave different insights to me. Normally, I am a person, I don't go for positive management books by reading it and saying that I will write my goals, I will repeat it before the mirror and keep on reminding me, because the reminder is already there in me. I don't want to go before the mirror and do what somebody said. But I always look for strategies of different entrepreneurs, how they were different from the people. See, for example, Akio Morita of Japan, once when they ventured to market the particular instrument, they were quoting $3 per piece. And one American company said, we will buy you entire pieces, $10,000. You quote me the price. I will underwrite, but you should not sell to anybody. This was at the starting stage of Sony. Then he said, one day's time I require, and probably the next day he went and said, my price will be $10 for 10,000 pieces. The guy said, you quoted $3 and you have to quote me $1 or $1.50. How come that you quoted? He said, if I am quoting $10 to you, I lose the marketing rights. My brand is not going to be popular. You are going to be the person who is popular. In that case, I have to book the profit with you and to popularize my next product with my brand. Otherwise, I am not interested. So these are all some new insight of what is a brand building. Sam Walton of Walmart, he used to take his own flight and ride low to see where the people are congested so that he can open the shop. See, there are different people who developed their skills in different way. I love to read these type of books, like, say, the efforts of the beginning of Toyota and all that. That gives an excitement to me. And all the foreign people have been giving excitement to me. I thought probably the local people also have creativity. And that creativity has been brought up by Balaji in the book. And that gives a lot of satisfaction that we are living with good colleagues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Because of the name.
So, just a minute, close also. Once again, I also thank all the audience who have come here. And some of the questions were fantastic today, not expected at all. I had a full bunch of questions just in case I thought the audience keeps quiet. So very nice until we had to say this is the last question. So that lady who asked the question about the women leaders, I read someone saying that in just a few years from now, you will just have leaders, no more women leaders. That's the way it's progressing. And the question on that, think about the unicorns. I think your question, sir, I thought unicorns are chasing valuations, whereas these people were chasing value additions. So that's a big difference, and there's a lot to learn from this book, particularly for all these new age entrepreneurs. I think they all should read these success stories, and they also imbibe many of those qualities so that they become successful. So lastly, I would say that, in a lot of times, the wealth creation is seen as an antithesis to poverty. Just like military is seen as an antithesis to peace, which is not the case. A strong military, a formidable military can only create peace. Similarly, a lot of wealth creation in the country can only alleviate poverty. So I think with these words, it's indeed a pleasure once again sharing the dais with such doyens, and let's all encourage more and more entrepreneurs who are on this model, taking up the hard way to become successful in life. Thank you so much. I now hand over the mic to the Mr. Anand.
Thank you, Mr. Venkatraman, and thank you, Balaji, for rightly not setting the cat out of the bag too much, because I think you have tried to evince the interest in a manner that people are now forced to buy that book. It's an excellent composition. I went through it in a very, not in a very systematic way, but in a random way once. But these books have to be read twice, thrice, over and over again, because the stories are so compelling, so influential, that all of you will take away a lot of interesting insights into each of these 27 stories. I actually influenced him to do two things. One, of course, to bring out a volume 2 of some of the other industrialists who have been left out, which needs to be done.
Yes. Volume 2 is only women.
You can probably include the women and the leftover of some of the industrialists, he knows those names. But more importantly, if you see the success of Tamil Nadu, the catalyst to the industry has been some of the not-for-profit organization success stories. Cancer Institute, VHS, Shankar Nethralaya, these are all fantastic stories. They may not be commercial in nature, but they have supported the entire Tamil Nadu ecosystem. So a story around these not-for-profit organizations also are very important. Financial services, some of the best run banks, NBFCs are all headquartered in Chennai. So that also demands a particular book. I don't know whether we'll have the wherewithal and time to do it, but I'm sure we'll get to do that at some stage. But that will be work in progress as of now. So thank you, Balaji, and thank you, sir, Mr. Chandramogan. He brings a lot of very interesting insights into any of the conversations. And as all of you have mentioned, we are all very, day to day we touch and feel Abaco or Arun ice cream. Not one day passes without tasting that. So his success is inspiration for so many other youngsters who are gathered here. So the books are available here. So any of you, once you come out, I'm sure Balaji is going to present it to you outside, and then you can buy the book. But please read it once, twice, thrice. And thank you, Mr. Balaji. Thank you, Mr. Chandramohan. And thank you, Mr. Venkatraman, for very effectively moderating this session and bringing out some of the interesting facets around the book as well. Thank you, one and all. Yeah.